Good afternoon, students. Myself is Shailendra Pratap Singh, and welcome to Shriram's IAS to the Unacademy platform. And today we'll be dealing with one of the important topics of GS Paper 2 in the UPSC Civil Services Mains Examination, and the topic is governance, its aspect, and basically, because today is the first live class, so I'll be giving you overview about what basically governance means and what are its application, because as we go further in the class and in further course of action, we'll be dealing with aspects of governance also. That includes and the mechanism of ensuring governance and accountability and transparency. So we'll be dealing all those topics which are covered in the GS Paper 2 syllabus of UPSC Civil Services, right? So let's start with the governance. Okay. So tell me, students, what do you mean by governance? Basically, you might have heard this term in the newspaper that you read through. That certain political party says that this government has failed in the governance process and the total governance has failed, right? And so first, tell me the distinction between the government, right, and governance. So what is the difference between government and the governance? So basically, government is the body. Basically, it is the body which primarily is involved in the process of governance, right? It is the body which governs, right? Which rules the country, which governs. And what is governance? It is a phenomena or the process or the ability to govern. Okay. So now tell me, what do you mean by govern, right? So govern is basically how the government governs. So govern, and this governance comes from this term, it is a root of this term. Govern means, it is like World Bank in 1992, one of its report of 1992, it defined the governance, and it, in the basic term, it defined that it is an exercise of power, or authority, right, to manage the resources of the country effectively and efficiently, right? So basically, governance is, in the basic term, when you define it, basically, see, in the UPSC, what you have to do, see, whatever terms UPSC has given in its syllabus, right? You have to know one word simplified answer to those words, right? One word definition of those words, so that you can, in the layman terms also, you should be able to, define those terms, like what is accountability, like what is transparency. Are you able to define it in one word, so that you are even able to explain to the layman that what do you mean by it, in very simple words. So the process of education and process of training and the everything is such that you are yourself ready to explain, you are yourself are able to explain and understand the overall this term, and secondly, to ensure that you are yourself very conceptual clear about the term and you are able to explain to the others, right? So basically, governance is the process or the ability to manage the resources of the country effectively. So basically, government is the prima facie and the main body. It's a body which governs, which is involved in the process of governance, right? So basically, government is the body who governs and governance is the process, right? So earlier, what in today's context governance means, whether only government is sole governing the country or there are other players also, right? So earlier, what was traditionally what was thought traditionally we did not had majority of, civil societies. We had the civil society, but to a limited extent, and market role was also very limited. But today, what it is believed, and I'll in the further classes I'll tell you how the process of governance itself evolved historically, and in the present context what do you mean. But in summary, I'll tell you that governance itself is a very complex process, right? In the today's complex world, governance, it is called very complex process. For example, poverty. You take the issue of poverty, right? How do you eradicate the poverty? Okay, so it is a governance issue. It is a process that you are governing and managing the resources, and if any person is deprived of the resources, they just falls into the trap of poverty, right? Basically. So poverty, how do you solve the problem of poverty? So you would say, sir, government can eradicate poverty. Yes, I totally agree. Government can ensure effective delivery of the public services to these people who are BPL, below poverty line, right? So basically, government is one of the major players to ensure that there are, food security to the people. There are houses like under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, the government is trying. But do you think that while government provides all the resources to the these poor people, the poverty will be wiped out from the country? No. To make themselves dependent, that is also to ensure that they are earning, they are capable. So there is a whole lot of governance issue. Like government is one of the players that provides all the basic resources to these people. You also need infrastructure. For example, there is a village in the outskirts of Chhattisgarh, which is Maoist ridden. So basically, you need infrastructure like rural roads, electricity, right? You need water, tap water. You need school, you need health, right? To ensure that every child that is born in the BPL family, in the poor family, is healthy, so that they do not get so that they do not fall in the trap of unhealthiness, right? Sickness, right? So here, and to ensure that health, basic health, school, everything is provided by the government. No, today even private sectors are also there who provides basic health, education, right? So there comes the role of private sector also. Also, if you might have heard of this, government is involving through a public-private partnership, the role of in the road construction, right? So government is involving private sector in the road construction in majority of the projects like port construction, road construction, railway construction. So private sector is also one of the today a player to provide the resources, right? So, and also you need civil society. What do? They are they are the group of, or the voluntary set of people who aspire for the cause of poor. They take up the cause of poor people and ensure that there are prioritization by the government to ensure that their needs are fulfilled by the governments, right? So they espouse for the cause of poor people. Like you might get the civil society related to the health also. You might get civil society for the working for the cause of education also. You might get civil society working for the cause of sanitation also, like Sulabh International, right? So there are so basically you have come across three players. Like government is one of the major player. Then you have private sector also who are involved in the process of development and the governance, and then you have the civil society also, one of the important players. who ensures that they are involved in the process of governance, right? In the process to ensure that, the process to ensure that there is proper management of the resources of this country to ensure better delivery, better public services to its people, right? Better development of its nation. That is the process of governance, right? So today, government is not, and government cannot be the sole player who can ensure the proper governance in the country. You need a network of other important and active players to ensure that there is a fair and transparent governance in the country, right? Now you get that point? Who are involved in the process of governance, right? Now moving to now basically how you define the governance term, right? And what does it ensure? So government, and I told you this PPP, right? So you remember the acronym, it is P4, right? So private, public is government. And there is people also. So apart from private, civil society and government, participation in the process of governance, people participation is must, because they are at the receiving end. Government is at the giving end, or other players are also at giving end, but they are at the receiving end. So their say in the process of governance is must, right? For example, you say that, for example, government says that we have disbursed 29,000 rupees under the Manrega scheme to ensure that you have 100 man days of employment in the rural India. But earlier what used to happen? Government used to disburse the fund, but there were so many layers from the center to state to local government to Gram Sabha, where actually they had to be employed, right? They had to be employed at the Gram Sabha level, right? So government used to disburse the fund from here. It used to go to this state government, then local government, then this. So what used to be happening at that point of time, a lot of funds used to get diverted for the other reason, and they used to get trapped in the process of corruption or bureaucratic logjam or red tapeism, right? So basically now, so how the government used to ensure that basically these funds were going to the beneficiary, because if government is not asking the people whether you did get the employment of 100 days or not, so how will you ensure the process of governance? How are you going to basically know, as a government, as a body, how you are going to know that you have disbursed with the right intent those money, but whether it was received by the real beneficiary, who are the people? So government needs the participation of people to ensure there is a proper and fair governance in the country. So people have to be made kingpin. People have to be made up, partners in the process of governance, in the process of development, right? There is a famous quote that I've heard somewhere, and maybe I've read in the newspaper, that said that development must be for the people. The development, जिसे कहते हैं विकास, must be for the people, and for it, development must be for the people. लोगों के लिए हमें विकास करना है, अपने देश को विकास की तरफ ले जाना है. But for development to be authentic, for it has to be real, for development to be authentic, it must be by the people, right? वो अगर लोगों के द्वारा ही डेवलपमेंट अगर हम करवाएं, एंड गवर्नमेंट एंड अदर प्लेयर्स आर ऑल्सो देयर, बट अगर लोग ही खुद उस प्रोसेस में इन्वॉल्व हो जाए, इफ द पीपल देमसेल्व्स गेट इन्वॉल्व इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ गवर्नेंस एंड द प्रोसेस ऑफ डेवलपमेंट, then that government will be really authentic, and it will be basically local driven. Basically it will be with the spirit of Indianness, right? It will not be copycat development of the western nation. It will be the real development, the development that you need for your country in the context of local settings, right? So basically governance, what it entails today, it entails proactiveness, it entails rule of law, not rule by men, but rule of man, but rule of law. Law is equal for all, and there must be proper implementation of all those rules, laws for equal, for all the man and women equally, right? Third is participation. Fourth is transparency. We call it TAO, right? Transparency, accountability, and this is openness. Fourth is equity, equal treatment for all, right? Fifth is inclusiveness. And efficient and effective delivery. And absence of corruption. We will see all these aspects of governance. So, I explained you basically what do you mean by governance, right? So that you have the conceptual clarity about this term, right? Now, these are the aspects of governance. You should have proactiveness. If you are seeing any problem, right, you should, as a government, because you are going to be recruited to civil services, so basically you as a government, as a body of government, should be proactive. For example, disaster. For example, IMD issues a warning in the state of Odisha that this cyclone is going to hit this place, right? So what do you ensure as a district collector, as a DC? You are in one of the districts of the Odisha. What would you do? You would ensure that there is a proactiveness response towards those disasters, so that there is a minimum impact towards the loss of lives and livelihood of those people, right? So in those sense, you are involved in the process of governance, right? Basically, you have to govern proactively in that scenario, right? There is an instance of corruption. You are able to see, for example, other example, that there are instances of corruption, or you are able to foresight it, that there might be issues of corruption in the future. So you will take the proactive measures to ensure that there is no instances of corruption, right? Rule of law. You should be involved in the process of rule of law. Law is the prime in the country, and everybody should be abided by the rule of the land, right? Rule of the law of the land, right? Third is participation. You must ensure it's a democracy, right? So participation in the policies, schemes, in the dialogue is must, to ensure what do the people want, right? You are there. See, it is called Indian Civil Services, right? Indian Administrative Services police services. It is basically it is a service to the nation, right? So how do you do service? By hearing to the people, right? By knowing what their needs are, what their demands are, right? By ensuring their participation in whatever rules, policies that you frame, that you implement, right? And there is aspect of transparency. Transparency is basically whatever you do, right? Government as a body, whatever they do, they must ensure that there is a transparency. Transparency is pardarshita, right? In Hindi we call it pardarshita, that you are able to see through, right? For example, what are the mechanism of transparency in the government, right? Can you name one of them? It's just a common sense. What are the law, policies or programs of the government that ensures transparency? So basically they are RTI, right? Example, if you want to give, there is a process of e-auction. Government introduced e-auction in basically ensuring or allotting spectrum in the country, like 2G, like 3G spectrum, 4G spectrum, 5G spectrum also. So in the disbursement of the spectrum, there is a process of e-auction. That auction will be done online so that everybody is able to see, right? It will not be done in the closed room, in untransparent manner, in an opaque manner. So basically these all processes ensure that there is a transparency in the process of governance, right? RTI, what do you do under RTI? You ask the government official or a particular set of organization, right? Public organization to disburse the information, right? You as a citizen ask the government that please disburse this information under this, how this decision was taken. We have the right to know, right? So basically you ensure transparency. And also under RTI Act section 4, it says that government by default should place all the information on its website, right? Proactive disclosure, right? Government, as a government body, you should proactively disburse or disclose the information, whatever decision you take, whatever the information ought to be given to the public, you should disclose this proactively. Accountability is, what do you mean by accountability? Accountability basically means giving account of one's own action, right? Government as a body should be able to give account of one's own action. How you are taking the action, what are the factors that are influencing in taking your decisions. And basically as a civil servant also, this is one of the tenets, one of the foundational values of civil services, that you should be able to give account of your action, whatever action you are able to take, right? For example, I was giving you this disaster management example, like in district of Odisha. Suppose you are not able to handle able to handle the disaster properly. There will be committee, post disaster, there will be committee and there will be inquiry against you, and you will be asked that why were you not able to take the proactive measures despite the warning forecasted by IMD. You are not able to take the proactive action. So basically you should be basically willingly, you should be able to give account to your action. Basically what we have in our country, basically that might be changing gradually and it might be changed for betterment of this country, but we have this psyche of colonial mindset, right? Colonial mindset. Because we were ruled by the colonial, by the foreign power, right? For the 200 years, almost 200 years, those people who were ruling us as a civil servant, they did not give account, they did not thought or they did not think to give account of their own action. They were only to rule the country, to only suppress the people according to the whims and fancies of the British government, right? So basically those mentality is still creeping into the mindset of the civil services, to be the ruler and not to be the service provider of the nation. Despite the change in the notion that Indian administrative services and all those things, but the basic tenets of this change in psyche, change in the mentality of the people have not been affected, right? So basically, when you have this mindset, when you have this mindset of colonialism or rule based, that you are there to rule the people, then this factor will lessen. This factor will also lessen, right? Openness is, as a public authority, as a government body, you should keep everything open, right? Open means there must be less of opaqueness in the process. Opaqueness in the process means whatever you do, it should be open, right? Parliament discussions, like they are telecasted on the TV. Even the decisions by the district magistrate and the superintendent of police should be taken openly, and whatever the process is, like judicial system is very open, right? So basically, whatever decision you take, it should be open, right? Now coming to this equity part. Equity is basically fairness and equal opportunity in terms of accessing the resources. Like, you must not differentiate between the beneficiaries, like across the caste, religion, sex, gender, whatever comes in your mind. You must ensure that there is a fairness in the process of governance, right? Fairness, right? Equal opportunity, to ensure that an equal opportunity also means you must do more for people who are more downtrodden, who are more underprivileged, right? So you should lend extra hand to those people, right? Because they need your hand more than people who are at the even places, right? And inclusiveness is to ensure that no one is left behind. That process should be inclusive, taking all person, transcending across caste, religion, sex, genders. Like, you should also include transgenders, right? So you must include, and I said, when I say inclusiveness also, so it also includes species also, right? It shouldn't include just, like you as a human being. It should include your plant, environment, everything. You should be very much aware about, all the living beings on this, earth, right? So inclusive development means taking all living species along with yourself, right? Now there is effectiveness and efficiency, right? So can you tell me the difference between effectiveness and efficient? What is efficient and what is effective? Anyone? So basically, if efficient is, you must know, right? Output upon input. Like, with the given set of input, how much output you are able to derive. That is basically efficient, right? अगर आपने कम मेहनत करके ज़्यादा output किया तो you are highly efficient, right? So basically, efficiency is, it is in terms of, efficiency is in term of percentage, right? So आपने 10 input दिया, 9 आपने output achieve किया, तो your efficiency is 90%, right? What is effectiveness? Basically, effectiveness is the degree of ensuring how much outcome is achieved, right? So basically, effectiveness is the degree. So it is basically the quality of outcome. It is basically the quality of outcome that ensures effectiveness. अगर आपने enrollment स्कूल का enrollment के लिए गवर्नमेंट का स्कीम है, there is a scheme of government to ensure that to increase the enrollment of the children in the school. But suppose आपने enrollment 100%, suppose you have achieved the enrollment to the 100% level, right? But whether those enrolled students are learning in the school or not, they are able to solve the math question to the grade of class 2 or 3 or 3rd class or not. So that is the quality of education, whether those quality of education is happening in the class or not. So that program or the policies is effective or not, you will ensure through the quality, right? So all these aspects of governance that we'll see in the further, in the detail, and also basically application of the governance part will take in the, one of the classes that we'll deal with. And there are also, we'll deal with all these terms like transparency, accountability, what are the measures of transparency, what are the mechanism to ensure accountability, right? What are the measures to ensure these all things. So there are social audits, right? There are civil societies, all these topics will take, and what are the limitations of the governance process in the today's era, and a way forward towards it. Okay, so for today we'll wind up the class and see you in the next class. Okay, thank you.